Hey, does anybody remember that time the most iconic graduation song of the 90s started off with the F-bomb? It's kind of perfect when you think about it. It's totally a 90s kid take on a super traditional rite of passage that's usually associated with literal pomp and circumstance, and using a breakup song to punctuate the mixtape that was high school. Because it really was a breakup when you think about it. Pretty much our entire lives up to that point was school of some kind. And on top of that, we had the best music in the 90s. In my book, this is one of the best melodies ever composed.
Tattoos and memories and dead skin on trial. For what it's worth, it was worth all the while.
I think it's for a few reasons. Obviously, it's catchy. Part of its hookiness is how the lyrics sit so naturally in the cadence of the melody. Syllabically, it doesn't have weird accents, and it strikes a perfect balance of lingering on literal memories and kind of rushing through other parts. Speaking of lyrics, I would spend my younger years just going along with the first part.
Tattoos and memories and dead skin on trial.
But I really thought I knew what the latter part meant.
For what it's worth, it was worth all the while.
We'll come back to that later, but let's talk about what makes this such a well-written and perfect song. And not just for the 90s. I'm Rod Kim, and this is Millennial Sleepover. If I seem familiar, it's probably because a short video like this came across your timeline at some point.
Hey, does anybody remember that time Green Day accidentally wrote the graduation anthem of the late 90s?
Something unpredictable.
And if not, just a heads up, I don't get in depth about the history of bands or songs or musical eras. You should check out my buddy Patrick Hicks for well-researched music history. I'm just a nostalgic 90s kid that grew up to become a full-time songwriter, and the two things you can expect from me are, one, hyperfixated observations of my favorite music, and two, anecdotal experiences from my younger years. As of recording this, I'm 42 years old, and the past couple of years, millions of people have resonated with my short-form thoughts on songs I love. My post about Good Riddance, Time of Your Life by Green Day wasn't my first viral video, but it was my most watched and liked, so I figured graduation season is as good a time as any to expand on what I started talking about there. I'm not really a guitar player, so any actual guitarists out there, feel free to add your thoughts and own insight. But what I really dig about this main arpeggio is that it's not particularly difficult in theory, but keeping up the momentum and not overthinking it can be a real challenge. The fact that Billy Joe starts and stops this riff a couple times at the beginning is so perfect because it kind of acknowledges that. And something no one really teaches you when you're that age is that among all the major milestones of being an adult, a non-zero amount of those will be starting over again.
Another turning point, a fork stuck in the road.
Like, you thought graduation was the only adulting starting line, but then through the years, you get divorced or laid off, and you have to start your life all over. And I'm not saying that this was necessarily on purpose, but I love that this guitar arpeggio is kind of a sonic representation of that constant forward momentum of time. So not only are the lyrics saying,
"Time grabs you by the wrist, directs you where to go,"
but musically, you feel it too. And the pre-chorus tees you up for a big anthemic chorus. Lord knows that era was known for big anthemic choruses. But instead, Billy Joe wraps up the sentiment and gives you emotional and musical closure.
It's something unpredictable, but in the end is right. I hope you had the time of your life.
The entire chorus sounds like just the end of a bigger hook, almost to say, we've all been through this, just wrap it up. Lyrically, he's sending us off with, I hope you had the time of your life. But musically, that feeling comes from what's called an authentic cadence, a 5 chord resolving to a 1 chord. And the right cadence with the right lyric is what delivers that emotional gut punch in your favorite music. If you label chords in a song 1 through 7, starting with the key the song is in this case we're in the key of G, so that is 1. This is typically notated using upper and lowercase Roman numerals. For the context of this conversation, you don't really need to know why upper and lowercase if you don't already. We're just focusing on the numbers right now. And when we dig in, again, we'll see some reliable and often used cadences pop up. So like I said a minute ago, the key, lyric, and melody resolves with an authentic cadence, changing from a 5 to 1 chord. And to a lot of us, this sounds like the most definitive closure melodically.
Time of your life.
Right before this, the lines setting up this chorus use something called a plagal cadence, where the chords resolve from 4 to 1. There's still this sense of closure, but with a little hint of open-endedness.
Lesson learned in time.
The main guitar arpeggio I mentioned earlier and the beginning of the verses outline what is mostly a 1 to 4 to 5 chord progression, which is possibly one of the most classic catchy chord progressions in generations. Actually, you know what? It would just be easier to show you. Okay, you got Cave Troll Rod here, or the Studio Rat Rod, whatever. So what I've done here is I've color-coded and mapped out Pachelbel's canon, except it's transposed to G, and then below it are the chords that are also in Good Riddance, so you can kind of see the similarities. So the verse, turn and point a fork stuck in the road, and that's the 1-4-5 chord progression. And then we have the plagal cadence, lesson learned in time. So there you are. Just to show it, this is the authentic cadence. Time of your life. See, sounds really final. I'm not saying that Billy Joe Armstrong listened to Pachelbel's canon and then made this graduation song. It's just that these are really classic chord progressions and classic cadences that are proven and true and very reliable. And so Pachelbel's canon is often considered, kind of like the blueprint almost, I would say, for pop music, even though it's a classical song. And I just think it's fun to see the parallels between what makes different songs work and the different tools you can use in songwriting. Anyway, back to not Cave Troll Studio Rat Rod. So if Pachelbel's canon is the blueprint, why not just use the whole thing? Well, we have a 90s graduation anthem for that as well. Pop music is at its best when it's as clear and potent as possible. Does it make you feel hopeful, sad, happy? Does it make you want to dance? Vitamin C lived up to this definition, especially by writing a song literally just called Graduation, though sometimes it was known as Friends Forever. And musically, she clearly borrows the inherent nostalgia from not just a couple chords, but pretty much all of Pachelbel's canon. I also think it's funny, it's technically called Pachelbel's canon in D because it's in the key of D. And Vitamin C, when she did Graduation Friends Forever, actually transposed it to the key of C. And the part that I think is kind of funny is that, Vitamin C, and she transposed it to the key of C. I don't even know if that was on purpose, it's just a funny little detail. Plus, the mid-90s through the early 2000s had this slight obsession with classically inspired melodies and arrangements. So the idea of interpolating a 300-year-old song kind of fit right in. Add a bouncy bubblegum beat and thoughtful pre-nostalgic lyrics, and you have one of the most straightforward, unapologetic, and iconic Y2K pop songs ever.
So we talked all night about the rest of our lives, where we're gonna be when we turn 25.
Remember when we thought 25 was old? I have been older than 25, nearly 3 times longer than the span of time I was worrying about becoming the ripe old age of 25. Anyway, similar to Green Day's Good Riddance, the chorus looks back at everything we've been through together, only this time, there is a big anthemic sing-along chorus.
As we go on, we remember all the times we had together.
And to reinforce its sing-along ability, we even got a choir with soloists ad-libbing in the final chorus.
As we go on, we remember all the times we had together.
But one of the quirky hallmarks of this song is those ad-libs aren't just at the end. The soloist is giving it their all from the very first verse.
Keep on thinking things will always be the same. But when we leave this year,
Kids today would call it cringe. I would call it enjoying shit I like without worrying about what the fuck other people think. Probably the most underappreciated part of this song, though, is the dramatic key change just for the turbulent instrumental bridge. Musically, it's probably there to break up the sequence of sugary melodies. Realistically, it might have been foreshadowing rough seas ahead for us elder millennials. And a lot of us remember the remix version that had all those students from New Jersey talking in between parts of the song.
At graduation, you're thinking about everything that's happened in the past 4 years. I think I'm really gonna miss my friends.
Graduation, Friends Forever by Vitamin C came out just in time to be my class song. I don't know if we technically had an official song. I actually found the program notes from my high school ceremony, and it looks like the only songs performed at commencement were the National Anthem, The Prayer by Celine Dion and Andrea Bocelli, music from Braveheart, and the school's fight song. But I guarantee you that me and my friends heard Vitamin C way more than any of those tunes. So functionally, Friends Forever was my class's graduation anthem. And it asked the kind of questions we'd be thinking about as we saw a lot of our classmates for the last time.
When we leave this year, we won't be coming back. No more hanging out 'cause we're on a different track. Can we survive it out there? Can we make it somehow? I guess will the past be a shadow that will follow us round? Will these memories fade when I leave this town?
For the most part, we just have to learn those lessons in time from our own experiences. But there was one song that tried its best to give advice to a bunch of know-it-all 90s kids. Whenever I see one of those memes or viral videos talking about how millennials look so young compared to other generations, I comment, well, we did have a hit song about the importance of wearing sunscreen. And sometimes kids born after Y2K think I'm being random, but if you're my age or older, you remember the Sunscreen song.
Wear Sunscreen.
Baz Luhrmann's adaptation of Romeo and Juliet was insanely popular, and his upcoming film Moulin Rouge was about to become a huge hit as well. In the midst of all of this, he released an album of reassembled bits of music from his films thus far. At least I think that's what it was. To be honest, I'm not familiar with the rest of the tracks on that album, but the song Everybody's Free to Wear Sunscreen was inescapable. And even then, there were a couple different versions. Most of us remember the radio edit that was around 5 minutes long. Remember when 5 minutes was the short version of a song? The album version was like over 7 minutes and featured a sung chorus by Quindon Tarver.
Brother and sister, together we'll make it through.
But the version most of us know omitted the sung parts and started off like a commencement speech at the end of a surreal coming-of-age film.
Ladies and gentlemen of the class of 99, wear sunscreen.
The dialogue of this song was from an article. I know I said I don't do research, but I want to get this credit right. An article by Mary Schmick in the Chicago Tribune. And so the original version started off with,
Ladies and gentlemen of the class of 97, wear sunscreen.
and the track is a remixed version of Everybody's Free from the Romeo and Juliet soundtrack.
And I'll be there just helping you out whenever I can.
I know, still don't. Get plenty of calcium. Be kind to your knees. You'll miss them when they're gone.
So what we're left with essentially is vibes and spoken advice, which actually worked really well. Spoken word songs that became hits weren't unheard of in the 90s.
Innocent, funky, how bizarre. How bizarre.
Reluctantly crouched at the starting line, engines pumping and thumping in time.
A few questions that I need to know. How you could ever hurt me so.
And I loved it. Part of what made the 90s so awesome was that Shania Twain, Korn, Dr. Dre, Backstreet Boys, and Baz Luhrmann, the blockbuster film director, could not only be on the same top 10 countdown, but on the same mix CD as any random kid you went to high school with. I was definitely that kid. And the advice was sound. Even back then, it made sense to me.
Don't waste your time on jealousy. Sometimes you're ahead, sometimes you're behind. The race is long, and in the end, it's only with yourself.
What's wild now, though, is that this song came out before I was even 18 and had more than one reference to thinking ahead to my 40s.
Don't feel guilty if you don't know what you want to do with your life. The most interesting people I know didn't know at 22 what they wanted to do with their lives. Some of the most interesting 40-year-olds I know still don't. Don't mess too much with your hair, or by the time you're 40, it will look 85. Maybe you'll divorce at 40, Maybe you'll dance the funky chicken on your 75th wedding anniversary.
And now that I'm in my 40s, hearing that advice to my younger self feels like, well, it's just, you know, the song itself actually says it best.
Advice is a form of nostalgia. Dispensing it is a way of fishing the past from the disposal, wiping it off, painting over the ugly parts, and recycling it for more than it's worth.
I look back on these old photos and something between the harsh lighting from the camera flash and the graininess of high-speed film is kind of cozy and nostalgic. The kind of feeling that sounds like... Here's to the Night by Eve 6 is less a graduation anthem and more of a class song claimed by high school seniors in the early aughts. Now, I kinda liked this song when it came out. I was literally a second semester senior in high school, but with every passing decade, I grow to love it more and more. We all knew this song was actually about a one-night stand, and I'm not gonna try to stretch some thin metaphor between that and graduating high school in 2001. But the chorus being this hooky, well-written toast captures the energy of raising a glass to Polaroid moments. The chorus sounds like what remembering feels like. It sounds like being whisked back to that bonfire after homecoming and all the small moments that filled those last couple years of being a teenager with a wide open future ahead of us.
Here's to the nights we felt alive. Here's to the tears you knew you'd cry. Here's to goodbye. Tomorrow's gonna come too soon.
To me, even though Here's to the Night didn't reach the same level of ubiquity as Good Riddance or the other songs I talked about, I think it's a solid runner-up in my book. If for nothing else, it just keeps getting better to me over time. In fact, the specific recording I listened to was ripped from a CD I had in high school that was kind of scratched up. In college, I ripped all my CDs to MP3 files using Music Match Jukebox Deluxe, and that MP3 file is special to me because the scratch CD produced a small glitch in the MP3 I still hear to this day. And every single time, that little quirk takes me back to summer nights driving around Greentown with the windows rolled down. So even though millions of people love this song, this glitchy version is mine. And that's what's so awesome about graduation anthems. Your song is your song. Now, this digital artifact on my Eve 6 MP3 is audibly what makes mine different, but the experiences you had with your favorite songs are what make yours different. The heartbreaks, the youthful adventures, moments you soaked up or took for granted, tragedy, accomplishments, and whatever you were thinking to yourself when you realized the next chapter of your story was a page turn away. For some people, it was that wistful verse melody and perfect lyric that became a graduation anthem, even though it wasn't intended to be one.
Closing time. Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end.
Or Leanne Womack daring you to have the courage to dance when life and opportunity reach out their hand.
And when you get the choice to sit it out or dance, I hope you do.
Is a wheel in constant motion.
I hope you dance.
And even though I was way past high school and even out of college by this time, Head Automatica's Graduation Day was the big song for a lot of younger millennials. And I love that it didn't even have to be an emotional ballad.
Graduation day, graduation day. We take back everything we said about you.
I'm sure that I missed some songs that were important to some of you. I kind of hope I missed some songs. I'm not the authority on any of this. I'm just sharing my chapters, and I'd love to hear yours. Originally for this video, I was actually trying to make the ultimate millennial graduation song by Frankensteining parts of some of the songs that I talked about here. Okay, so we have the session here, and I just want to be fully transparent, fully clear. I am not a great guitar player. This guitar is whatever the store brand at Guitar Center is, and I just kind of did the best I could, so you'll hear all the like mistakes, and that's why it kind of sounds a little weird. And clearly the strings are fake. I don't have a symphony in here or anything. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm just gonna kind of mumble through the idea I had. I wanted to like take my favorite parts of 3 of my favorite graduation songs. So Good Riddance by Green Day, Graduation by Vitamin C, and Here's to the Night by Eve 6, and they supposedly are all in here. So I thought it would be nice to start off with Pachelbel's Canon because I made those connections. A little meter change for anybody paying attention. And then my poor attempt at playing the good Riddance guitar arpeggio. Not very good. And then it would go into, so we talked all night about the rest of our lives and where we were when we turned 25. Tattoos and memories and dead skin on trial. For what it's worth, it was worth all the while. Here's a toast to all those who know me all too well. Then go into, as we go on, we remember all the times we had together. As our lives change to something unpredictable, but in the end is right. I hope you had the time of your life. I forgot I had the stomp and holler drums. Because I thought it'd be fun, millennials, like the folky stomp and holler stuff. Anyway, that was the attempt at that. It was fun, but to be honest, it felt kind of disingenuous and contrary to the spirit of what I've been saying. So instead, I want to share a song I wrote a few years back, the acoustic version specifically. You can stream it wherever you listen to music. Favorite Day was written the day before I was about to take a big step. It was the first time since high school or college graduation that I'd felt that weird mix of excitement and anxiousness.
And I think I found what making it feels like.
So I wanted to remind my future self, who was bound to face some new kinds of bad days, what the really good days felt like.
This is my favorite day.
So it's no secret to anyone that knew me back then that I hated high school. I had good friends and life in general wasn't the worst it could be, but I was ready to move on and figure out who I really was. Green Day's Good Riddance came out at the beginning of my high school years, so I just kind of watched class after class graduate with it as their soundtrack. For them, photographs and still frames were in the rear view, packed in boxes in the back seat, and they were choosing their path at the fork stuck in the road. But for me, I was still making those memories and taking those pictures. Still, I get nostalgic for those years, even though I wouldn't have wished for the mistakes, losses, heartbreak, and frustration. Making it through all that messiness showed me what I'm made of. Sometimes, nostalgia is proof of survival. And obviously, there were great times, triumphs, and definitely great music. And like I said at the beginning of all this, I thought I knew back then what it meant to sing,
For what it's worth, it was worth all the while.
But now, about a quarter century later, I understand it better than ever. I'm no longer embarrassed to sing Friends Forever at the top of my lungs in a carpool. I tear up anytime I hear the opening scrapes of Here's to the Night, and remember that kid who could barely fathom being in their 30s, let alone making it to his 40s. And I definitely still wear sunscreen. Yeah. Thanks for going on this deep dive with me. If you enjoyed it and made it this far, please consider subscribing and giving this video a thumbs up. I'd love to hear your stories about any of these songs, and definitely want to hear what songs I didn't talk about and why they are so nostalgic for you around graduation or any other big life event. I'm going to try to make one of these long-form deep dives the last Saturday of each month, so check back at the end of June when I talk about that time I Wanted That Way temporarily had lyrics that made sense, and why the music was so good it didn't matter. And last but not least, I'd like to thank Patreon supporters Cal Herrington and Amelia Ross for being the most incredible day ones ever. It's been years since I've made long form content, and these two stayed subscribed on Patreon despite the complete lack of videos. Thank you. If you'd like to see your name here or just support me and Lucy, check out the link in the description and on the screen. Congratulations to all of those who recently graduated. Enjoy this incredible time of your life and save those playlists list. You'll be old and nostalgic sooner than you think. Hey, editing Rod here. I'm so tired. I've been working on this so long. Anyway, I forgot to mention, please check out my podcast. I interview some of your favorite artists like All American Rejects, Edwin McCain, Hootie and the Blowfish, Hinder and Roses, and probably some more to come if you keep an eye out. Thanks for listening. This took so long to make.